What is going on, everybody? John Middlekauff, 3 and Out podcast after Thursday night football. You know, not exactly LSU, Alabama, or Patriot Giants Super Bowls, but it'll do. But before we dive into it, my friends at Turtlebox. I love my friends at Turtlebox because you know what this is? It's the holiday season. And you know what the holiday season means? Time for giving. But you know what's hard about time for giving? You never know exactly what to give. Fathers, brother-in-laws, brothers, cousins, nephews, you name it. That's where my friends at Turtlebox comes in. The number one Bluetooth speaker on the market. Battery life doesn't get any better. Audio quality, incredible. Outside, inside, loud, crisp, fantastic. Can also personalize the colors for your favorite sports team. Bills fan, LSU fan, USC fan, Minnesota Vikings fan, they got you covered. Here's what you do. You go to turtleboxaudio.com, use the promo code JOHN, John, and get $20 off, plus free shipping. turtleboxaudio.com, promo code JOHN, free shipping, $20 off. You can't beat it. I honestly can't recommend it enough. I've been using it every day. Listen to it in the shower. I've listened to it outside back when it was hot and warmer and I was swimming. Took it to the golf course last week, put it in that little cart while we were playing. Fantastic. turtleboxaudio.com, promo code John, John, $20 off, free shipping. Go do it now. You will not regret it. Get a present for a family member, a loved one this winter. I got you covered. Okay, let's, I guess, dive into the game. You could hear it on Al's voice. I mean, Al's been in the bright lights well before I was even born. Obviously, the famous hockey game, 1980. I was born in 84. So Al Michaels has been a big deal for a long time. And he clearly has been the number one NFL guy, even over Buck and even over Nance for decades now. And I don't truly understand. I mean, I have some theories why he did Thursday Night Football. One, you get to trailblaze a little bit, right? You're the first guy, full-time streamer. So even long after he's gone, the first guy that ever jumped at it was Al Michaels. 2, I'm sure they paid him a lot of money. 3, he has his weekends off because even when, you're doing a Sunday night game, you still probably got to travel on Saturday. Well, what can he do now? He can play golf on Saturday. He can play golf on Sunday. He's got a little bit of time to breathe. But these games, especially the last several weeks, have been awful. And look, no hate to anyone that's a Panther fan or a Falcon fan. For me personally, those aren't the brands that really move the needle for me. Like when I see you guys on TV, if that game was a Sunday, it would be a Sunday morning game for us on the West Coast. I'm sorry, like I'm not a big fantasy football guy, so I can't totally relate to like chiming into every single game because I got a player on that game, but I do gamble, so I know what it's like to pay attention to games that aren't regional or I'm not a fan of or whatever. That's the division I'm sorry that I just dislike the most. And when I say dislike, just it's pretty meaningless to me. It just doesn't move me emotionally at all. But watching the game tonight, it kind of hit me. Like David Tepper, the owner of the Panthers, who is, I do think that the show Billions on Showtime, or I guess HBO, Showtime, was after specifically Steve Cohen, the guy that now owns the Mets. But I've read that parts of it were also David Tepper, who kind of like an Axelrod type figure on Wall Street. Obviously one of the great traders of all time. And recently, with how much it costs to buy a team, you have to have so much money, right? One of the stories that happened today, like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to spend much time reading when politicians are going after Dan Snyder. Just tell me when he sells the fucking team. Now, I get if I was a Washington Commander fan, I'd be interested in that story, but that was a story, like, I'm not reading an article on this. Just tell me when they pop him, he goes to jail or he sells the team. Like, I'm done. We've seen a million stories on this guy. But whenever that team is sold, someone's going to buy it for $6 billion. So the market, of potential buyers are not me and you. It's a small list of people. We already know them. It's like Bezos, like 7 other people. So when these guys buy the team at an astronomical value, they are used to winning in life and winning at their business. Yet David Tepper and even Arthur Blank, when he bought the team 20 plus years ago, I had to Google it. He bought it in 2001. He inherited Michael Vick. So Michael Vick had been the number one pick the year before. So he got to inherit one of the most spectacular, awesome, fun players in NFL history in his second year. That's pretty lucky. That's not normal. Most times, you're inheriting a bad franchise. The Browns, the Panthers, kind of what he's inheriting with the Broncos. Now, in theory, he's inheriting Russell Wilson. We'll see how that plays out. But part of the business when you buy these teams, if you're David Tepper, you hire a guy to be your head coach. And then you pray to God that he can draft you a quarterback. But most of these guys, great in Wall Street, the Waltons, they own Walmart, Bezos, dominant businessman. They're great at their business. They know how to make money. Yet when you buy the football team, you really know nothing. You might be a football fan, but you don't know scheme. You don't know really what makes a great coach. In your mind, you're I know what makes a great leader. I've hired a ton of managers. I've hired a ton of, senior executives. It has nothing in common with the football coach. So you interview all these guys with great resumes that have been winning at various spots, either as a coordinator, as a former head coach, or as a college head coach, and you kind of hope to get it right. David Tepper hired Matt Rule, who was extremely successful at Temple and Baylor. But when you look back, it's he'd only worked 1 year in the NFL as an assistant offensive line coach, and then he couldn't find a quarterback, and it blew up in his face. Because I'm watching his team tonight, loosely watching his team. That was a terrible game. But the Panthers have a lot of good players, but they have no quarterback. P.J. Walker's a fun little player. He's probably a third string, maybe a fringe second string guy. And when you don't have a quarterback, it doesn't matter how much talent you have. And when you don't have a coach, you're fucked. You have no shot. So all these guys buying all these teams are basically just praying to God that they get their coaching interview right, and then that guy can find a quarterback. And let's face it, there's a huge element of luck with finding a quarterback. Just a couple of years ago, and because the media hype, and listen, I guess I don't consider myself media, but I'm part of the hype machine, and I fell victim to it. I liked the quarterback class a lot 2 years ago. Loved Trevor Lawrence, loved Justin Fields, was fascinated and intrigued by Trey Lance. Wasn't the biggest Zach Wilson guy, but didn't dispute his talent. And that quarterback class looks pretty terrible. Trevor Lawrence has been very up and down for a guy that was held to such high regard. I mean, he was the level of prospect of an Andrew Luck, of a Shaquille O'Neal, of a LeBron James, of a Bryce Harper. No one can argue that. Anyone listening that follows this game pretty closely knows he was held in the highest of high regards. And it hasn't been terrible of recent memory, but it should have been a little bit better, a little quicker, just in my opinion. And Fields now looks like he's kind of coming on, but we'll see. I mean, Trey Lance has started 4 games as a shattered ankle. The Jets win only in spite of Zach Wilson, and Mac Jones' average of the day is long. So the whole thing with quarterbacks is the unknown. Think about years before that. Baker Mayfield, complete bust. Sam Darnold, also complete bust. Josh Rosen, he's a practice squad guy. There are 2 quarterbacks in that draft and they turned out to be really good, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, but no one knows coming up in this draft. I love Bryce Young. He's tiny. I'm a big fan of Will Levis's talent, but who knows? So it's just that C.J. Stroud and then all the other guys in this class, nobody has any clue. Most good GMs, I can find a good D tackle. I can find a good safety. But if you don't find the quarterback, you got no shot. And now he's looking for a head coach again. So even when they go on this head coaching search, which I would imagine they've already done due diligence, they've already contacted agents, they already have a short list. It's hard to interview people. You can't interview coordinators now. You probably could do some back channel interviewing college head coaches, but he's not gonna hire a college head coach after he just did, unless it was Jim Harbaugh. Maybe he'll wait to see what NFL coaches are fired. But again, it's going to be an educated guess, which you could argue most things in life are educated guesses. The difference is when Bezos was dealing with Amazon, when David Tepper was dealing with the stock market, when the Waltons were dealing with anything inside Walmart, they knew what they were doing. and they knew how to turn it into a profit. When you own an NFL team, the element of luck, it's kind of like golf. You know, you hit it, even when you hit a good shot, it could easily fucking land under sand. It could easily land plugged in the rough. You know, just as easily it could bounce and be 5 feet from the green. And you watch him right now, and, you know, you just see, like, I think the Panthers have a good future, but they don't get a coach and they don't get a quarterback. Dave Tepper spent a lot of money to keep losing. And on the flip side, I think Arthur Smith is really good. I've watched their team pretty closely probably for the last month. I watched them kick the hell out of the 49ers. I watched their game last week against the Chargers. I thought they thoroughly outplayed them. I give them credit. I didn't love the Drake London draft pick. He looks pretty damn good. Obviously, Kyle Pitts is really good. They also don't have a quarterback. I like Marcus Mariota. The one time I went to Titans practice, he was the starting quarterback. The center at Fresno State, who's now coaching at Auburn, actually, as an assistant coach, was a GA at Oregon when Mariota was there. And after some press conference and stuff, I went over and bullshitted with him. Took like 10 minutes. We talked for a while. Every person I've ever known that has known Marcus Mariota swears by the guy. His character is a 10 out of 10. Fantastic human being. He's a pretty average quarterback, you know? So the Falcons are a good example, kind of like the Carolina Panthers. They got some really good players. And the difference is, like, the Panthers don't have a coach. I think the Falcons coach is pretty good. If Arthur Smith, the son of the dude that started FedEx, is a billionaire, and I know people love to shit on, like, rich kids. If you're a rich, lazy kid, the last thing in a million years you would ever want to do is be an NFL football coach. Because, like, Google Arthur Smith's resume. He had to work his way up from position coach to position coach, finally became a coordinator. But he's not considered a guy of any head coach, right? Mike Vrabel inherited him. Mike Vrabel got hired at the job, and Arthur Smith was already there, and he made him the offensive coordinator after LaFleur got the job at Green Bay. So he's not considered like a Shanahan guy, a Belichick guy, a Sean Payton guy. He's just Arthur Smith. Yet when I watch his teams, and I know he lost tonight. Hell, I know he lost last week against the Chargers. I go, how is he so competitive? You know why? He's really good. His team's tough, and they're fantastic in the run game. He does not have a quarterback. It might seem like he does because he has Marcus Mariota, a famous name. I'm pretty sure Marcus Mariota is like a $2 million quarterback. Marcus Mariota is a backup right now. A solid, middle-of-the-road backup. But he's their full-time starter. Now, maybe Desmond Ridder, the guy they drafted from Cincinnati, can become a starter, and maybe they get some gem. I don't know. Watching him at Cincinnati, I'll be honest, I thought he was pretty average. It's not like they loved him. They drafted him in the third round. But if they can't find a quarterback, like, their ceiling is only so high. Because that division is pretty wide fucking open. Tom Brady is, going to be 57 years old. And let's face it, this is his last year on Tampa Bay. He's either going to retire or leave. The Saints are royally screwed. I mean, their coach is a major question mark, and they don't have a quarterback. And Carolina doesn't have a quarterback or a coach. So the one thing Atlanta has to feel comfortable about is they like their coach, as they should. High-level guy. He has like an ethos. He has something that he has like, when you watch his teams, it's very obvious what you're watching. And a lot of young coaches, I say it all the time, when you think of young offensive guys, they like to throw the ball. To me, he reminds me of Kyle Shanahan. He would, I don't care who his quarterback is, he'd want to run it 40 times a game. And he's good at it. He's a fantastic run schemer. And the better quarterback you get when that is kind of your ethos, you have a chance, especially if they can build up that defense. Now, I don't know much about his GM. They're going to be drafted probably in like the top 13, 14. If they hit on a pick, maybe they can be competitive. But I'll tell you this. I've watched Arthur Smith now probably fourth full game of the Atlanta Falcons, and that's a lot for me. I mean, I haven't done much watching of the Atlanta Falcons the last 3 or 4 years. Couldn't pay me to watch Matt Ryan skip balls into people's hands. And I'm impressed. If I was a Falcon fan, I would be bullish on Arthur Smith. But we got to figure out a way to get a quarterback. Because Marcus Mariota, like I said, fantastic human being. Average quarterback. And they know that. It's not like they think that he's some future starter for them. The problem, though, is for all these teams without a quarterback, like, what do you do? How do you find a guy? If you're not drafting one or two, where the Lions, where the Texans are probably going to be drafting, and let's face it, like, whether these guys are worthy or not, those top quarterbacks are going to go there. Jimmy Garoppolo is a free agent. Like, where do you find the guy? And this is what I get back to when you buy the team. There's just a huge element of luck. I mean, look at the Cowboys. How'd they get their starting quarterback? They found him in the 4th round. Look at Seattle. They're 6-3. Where'd they find their quarterback? It's Geno Smith. No one thought Geno Smith was going to be that good. Not a soul. How did the Rams get Matt Stafford? Well, just randomly the Lions decided to trade him, and they traded multiple first. Like that, those type transactions don't happen that much. So I don't know. Just you got to keep your fingers crossed and hope and pray, because I would say this for the Falcons. Like I said, you do have a coach that you should feel somewhat confident in the future if you can just get him a guy that can throw the ball a little bit.